This is the TCL 10 Pro, and if you're into the tech space on YouTube or just into smartphones in general, then you've probably already heard of this device, but if you haven't, I'm going to give you a quick rundown right now. So back in January, TCL announced that they would be releasing this phone alongside another cheaper smartphone called the TCL 10L. And if you don't know, TCL is not known for smartphones at all. They're actually known for consumer TVs and some fairly budget consumer TVs. So when TCL announced that this phone right here would be coming in at only $450, it got a lot of people excited. Now, I've actually been using the TCL 10 Pro for about 2 weeks now, and TCL was actually kind enough to send it out to me for the purpose of this review. So thank you, TCL, so much for, keeping into consideration small creators like me. So thank you so much. But as always, them sending the product out to me has no effect on what I say about this phone. Now, one big thing that immediately caught my attention when I first saw this phone and started looking at its specs is the sheer amount of features it has. I'm going to be getting into every single one, which is why this video is really long and a lot longer than most of my reviews. It's just because there is just so much to talk about on this phone. And I'm not joking when I say that this phone puts some flagships to shame. What TCL was able to include with this handset for under $450 is incredible. It comes with a Snapdragon 675 processor, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, which is expandable, and a 6.47-inch AMOLED display with a 398 ppi density. 4 cameras capable of shooting 64 megapixel photos and a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. And that is only the tip of the iceberg, because the TCL 10 Pro also has Face Unlock, an in-screen fingerprint reader, NFC, and get this, a headphone jack. That's right, the TCL 10 Pro comes with a headphone jack, a feature that most phones don't have these days, and you might hate me for this, but I actually still like using wired headphones to listen to music, so this feature was a big bonus for me. For the UI, the 10 Pro is running a nearly clean Android with minimal bloatware and a few extra additions here and there. Thank goodness. And although TCL did add some slight changes here and there, overall the launcher is very good compared to others I have seen. I for one use Nova Launcher, which allows you to customize your launcher so it looks even closer to stock Android, but for this phone, it's really not necessary as everything looks so good already. Speaking of looking good, the design of this phone is also very nice, with a lot of smooth curves used throughout the design language. The cameras in the back are even flush with the rest of the phone, which makes it so much easier when laying this phone on a table. And the color I got is a cross between gray and silver, which I personally think looks really sick. So with the specs out of the way, let's talk about my experience with this phone, going through all the features, and at the end, I'll even include some other features that didn't really make the cut for, the best features this phone has to offer, but are still pretty cool additions to the TCL 10 Pro. As I have been using this phone over the past weeks, performance has honestly really surprised me. The chipset in this phone, the Snapdragon 675, is slightly outdated, and because of that, I honestly thought that transitioning between apps, having a lot of applications open at once, and gaming all would have a few jitters here and there, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. The phone does also come with 6 gigabytes of RAM, which, to put that in perspective, this $450 phone has more RAM than the iPhone 11 Pro. But even with the addition of a healthy amount of RAM, it was still so surprising that I haven't noticed any performance errors. I'm not sure if that's just because I haven't been pushing it hard enough, but I've been doing a lot of testing with this phone, so for the average person, I think performance is going to be fine because I doubt anybody is going to be using this phone and putting it to the test more than I have already done. Okay, so moving on from the internals and on to the externals, one big thing that's definitely going to catch your eye right away is the 6.47-inch AMOLED display that this phone has. It has a resolution of 1080 by 2340 and has a pixel density of 398. So unfortunately, no pixels will be spotted unless maybe you have a magnifying glass. Around the perimeter of this device, you'll find that TCL made this display a waterfall display, similar to that seen on some of the Samsung Note phones. So a lot of people have actually said that when they are reaching for buttons using this display, their hand will actually open apps and interact with the waterfall portion of the display. But in my usage, I haven't noticed this, but you know, it is something to consider. Also at the top of the screen, you'll find a notch placed in the center, which holds the 24 megapixel front facing camera, which also has face unlock sensors. I will be talking about both of these a bit later. Honestly, the display on this phone is more than I could ever ask for $450. Sure, the resolution is not as high as some other flagship phones, but that can be put aside because, as I said before, it's pretty darn affordable at $450. Now onto the face unlock and the in-display fingerprint sensor. Now both of these have actually pleasantly surprised me, but I would definitely have to say the face unlock is a lot better than the fingerprint reader. Face unlock is very reliable and it takes less than half a second to unlock most times. However, the fingerprint sensor is a bit more touchy. It works well when your finger is directly centered and not tilted, but if it's just slightly off, then it will take like 5 seconds or it won't unlock at all. Personally, I use the face unlock way more than the in-display fingerprint reader, primarily because it's a lot faster, but it was nice that TCL included both options, and I'm not really gonna hate on the in-display fingerprint reader. Sure, they could have made it a lot better, but it is new technology, and just having it on this phone at all is really great. Now on the other side of the phone is where the craziest feature of the TCL 10 Pro lies, and that is the quad camera setup. 4 cameras on a sub $500 device. Let that sink in. There's a regular camera capable of shooting 64 megapixels and 4K at 60, and there's also a 2x optical zoom lens, a wide angle lens, and a close-up macro lens. Additionally, there are some extra features included in the camera, including night mode, long exposure, and portrait mode. Now for all of the camera modes, I've actually gone out on the field, taken a bunch of photos, and tested every single mode and every single camera, so you can make a wise purchase decision on whether or not you like these cameras or not. The first set of photos I have here are the zoom, regular, and wide angle lenses. As you can see, all 3 of the photos are high quality and feature a very high dynamic range with very vivid colors. The 4th camera on this phone, aside from the 2x optical zoom, wide angle, and the regular, is the macro lens. And as you can see with this photo right here, it allows you to get very close to an object and still get all of the fine details in focus. There are also a few other features that are important to note with the camera app. I've actually mentioned these before, and that is portrait mode, long exposure mode, and night mode. First up is night mode, and it's nothing like you're gonna find on a Samsung or Pixel, but it will get the job done if you want to brighten up a dark subject or landscape without losing a lot of quality. Next up is the portrait mode, and yeah, this mode definitely has a few flaws. As you can see in this photo right here, there are quite a few areas around my body that are out of focus when they should be in focus. Now, this isn't a deal breaker by any means, but yeah, I don't know. I can't really recommend portrait mode on this phone just because there are so many problems with it. I don't know if it's just where I took the photos. I did take quite a few, and all of them had those problems where some of my face would be in focus, some of it would be out of focus, some of the background would be in focus, and some of that would be out of focus as well. And the second to last camera mode that this phone has is the 64 megapixel mode. Now, this mode can only be used on the regular focal length lens, and I mean, it's cool that you can get 64 megapixels, but all it really does is increase the clarity of the photo. It really doesn't add any quality at all, so unless you're going to be zooming in a ton, which I can see where that could be usable, then the 64 megapixel is really not going to be for you. As you can see in these two test photos right here, the first one has just the regular resolution, which isn't bad, and then the second one you can see has slightly better clarity when it's zoomed in. Now, last up is the long exposure, which is actually pretty cool, and it doesn't have as many problems as some of the other extra features that this phone offers. However, I will say you are going to need a tripod because long exposure means that it's going to take in any movement your phone makes while you're taking the long exposure, so even slight movements with your hand can ruin a photo. This isn't a problem for me, honestly, because, you know, that's what long exposure is. However, for the average person who's just going out to take photos, I can see where this can be an issue because most people just don't carry around tripods with them. Now, all of these lenses can also shoot video, however, only the regular focal length lens can shoot in full 4K. And another really cool feature that this phone has inside the camera app, I know there's a lot of features, I tried to tell you, but the feature is that you can see all the different lenses before you actually take the photo to find which lens best suits your needs. And I believe you can also use this for video mode as well. And speaking of video, here are a few video tests from the TCL 10 Pro. One is from the front camera, just the regular lens, and one is from the rear camera. To be honest, I don't think the video quality on these phones is really that bad. It's definitely a lot better than other phones I have used, and with the addition of the video stabilization, especially when you're walking, as you saw in my test video, it really smooths out any jarring movements that you may make. In conclusion, regards to the cameras, I think TCL really tried to do too much. Sure, 4 cameras is cool, but do you really need that many? And do you really need all of those extra camera modes? I mean, I feel like if TCL really focused in on a few select features, I think those could have been a lot better. Take the Google Pixel, for example. It does not have 4 cameras, but it's still able to deliver really, really high quality photos that are top of the line when it comes to smartphone photos. Now, I'm not going to say that the cameras on this phone suck because they definitely don't, but they definitely have a lot of problems associated with them, including some of the photos I took actually had a bit of a haze over them, which I found really odd. And it was really only when I took photos when it was cloudy out, but I mean, still, it looks pretty bad when you look at it. Here are a few photos referring to what I'm talking about. As you can see, there is definitely a visible haze over each of these photos. So now that we're done with all of the main features that this phone offers, there are also quite a few really unique and novelty features that this phone has. So one of the cool things that this phone has is on the left side of the TCL 10 Pro, you'll find a button which is programmable. It can be programmed 3 different ways. 1 press can do one thing, 2 presses can do another, and a long press can also do another thing. On my phone, I have it so that the long press can take a screenshot, but you can obviously add a lot of cool customizations with this button. And there's also an IR blaster on this phone, which means You can use the TCL 10 Pro to turn on and off your TV and a bunch of other devices that use remotes to operate them. It's really simple to use. All you have to do is click a few buttons and the device that you want to turn on and off is programmed in, and you can use it with a bunch of stuff. Another cool thing that this display offers is what TCL calls NXT Vision Enhancement. All it really is a visual enhancement of the screen. It's pretty much just HDR for your phone, but it is a really cool addition if you want your photos when you're looking at them to really pop and your videos to pop as well. And that's pretty much it with the extra features. There might have been a few I have missed, but this video would go on forever if I talked about every single cool thing that this phone offers. Even with its flaws, I still think the TCL 10 Pro is definitely worth buying, or at least just checking out. I'll have it linked in the description down below so you can check it out if you want to. And that's it for this video, guys. I know this is really only my third smartphone review on the channel, but you know, you gotta start somewhere, so I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope that you really enjoyed the intro sequence because that took me a long time to do. So if you did, hit the like button, subscribe, because my subscriber viewership is scarily low. Like, it is so scary how low it is. You need to subscribe, please. Like 0.6% of people watching my videos are subscribed and the rest are not. Like, imagine how many subscribers I would have if 20% of the people watching subscribed. So you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, hit the button, and if you have any feedback for me, leave that in the comment section as well, and I will catch you all later. Peace.